Hey guys, welcome back to r/I do work here lady. Imagine standing in a building you own, having poured millions into it, when a manager calls 911 on you. This Karen tells them that you're a threat, you are trespassing, you are dangerous just because of how you look. The cops show up and I had to make a choice that she would never forget. And the first one is titled, Racist Entitled Karen Manager Calls 911, Bans Me from Company Premises, but I own the company. So I'm the founder and owner of a specialized logistics and supply chain management company. I started it from my own garage over 2 decades ago with a beat-up van and a second mortgage on my house. Today we are a multi-state operation with several large distribution centers, hundreds of employees and contracts with some pretty major retailers. I'm a black man. Usually I wouldn't mention this because I don't care about skin color, but sadly for this story, it is relevant. And while I've certainly faced my share of obstacles and biases along the way, I've always believed in leading from the front and proving people wrong through hard work and success. So my company is my life's work. One of our biggest growth opportunities came when we acquired a smaller, failing competitor. The main prize in this acquisition was a massive, strategically located warehouse facility. It was old and inefficient, but the location was perfect. We spent the better part of a year and a sickening amount of capital, we're talking 8 figures, gutting and refitting the entire place. We installed state-of-the-art automated sorting systems, high-density racking, and a completely new inventory management system that I had personally helped design the software architecture for. This facility was poised to become the new flagship of my entire operation. Because it was an acquisition, we inherited some of the previous company's staff. We did our due diligence, conducted interviews, and kept the ones who seemed competent and willing to adapt to our company culture. One of these hires was the new facility manager. Let's call her Karen. Karen came with a glowing review. Guys, let me guess, she is extremely proficient at calling other managers, and her hairdo is immaculate. She had years of experience in warehouse management, all the right certifications, and she talked a great game in the interview. She seemed like a no-nonsense by-the-book manager who would keep a tight ship. My COO, a guy who has been with me since the early days, handled her final interview and gave her the green light. I trusted his judgment. Well, that was a mistake we would both come to regret. And just to make this clear, my management style is very hands-on. I'm not a sit-in-the-ivory tower type of owner. I like to walk the floors of my warehouses, talk to the forklift drivers, ask the pickers what is working and what isn't, and I believe you can learn more from a 5-minute chat with a frontline employee than from a dozen PowerPoint presentations. To get an honest assessment, I often do these visits unannounced and dressed down. No suit, no tie, no entourage, just me in a pair of steel-toed boots, work pants and a plain unbranded hoodie or jacket. The long-term employees at my other facilities know me and are used to seeing me pop up randomly. At this new facility, however, I was a complete unknown person. The day of the incident, I decided to drive down to the newly renovated flagship warehouse. I was particularly interested in seeing the new automated sorting system under a full load. The final phase of its implementation had just been completed, and I wanted to see my multi-million-dollar investment in action with my own eyes. I did not tell anyone that I was coming. I just got in my car and drove the 2 hours to the site. I parked my car, a fairly modest sedan, not a flashy sports car or anything, in the general parking lot, not the reserved executive spots near the entrance. I badged myself in through a side entrance using my master-level access card, which works on every door in every facility I own. The system locked my entry, as it was designed to do. I walked onto the main floor and the sheer scale of the operation still gave me a thrill. The air buzzed with the hum of conveyor belts, the whirring of robotic arms, and the beeps of forklifts. It was the sound of my business thriving. I spent a good 30 minutes just observing. I watched the flow of packages, noted the efficiency of the sorting process, and mentally jotted down a few minor calibration issues I wanted to discuss with the engineering team. I was standing near the end of a long conveyor line, watching packages get shunted into their designated chutes, when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around to face a woman in her late 40s with a severe haircut, a clipboard clutched to her chest like a shield, and an expression that could curdle milk. Her company polo shirt, bearing my company's logo, had the word manager embroidered under it. This had to be Karen. "Can I help you?" she asked, but her tone was anything but helpful. It was dripping with suspicion and accusation. "No thanks, I'm just observing the new sorting system," I replied calmly, turning my attention back to the machinery. Her voice sharpened. "Who are you with? What vendor are you from?" I decided to be a bit vague here. I didn't want the "big boss is here" effect to change anyone's behavior. I wanted to just see a normal operation day. So I said, "I'm not with a vendor, I'm just here to see how the system is running." Her eyes narrowed and she did a very deliberate, slow scan of my appearance. She took in my plain grey hoodie, my work pants, my skin color. The shift in her demeanor was palpable. The professional suspicion morphed into outright hostility. "This is a restricted area for employees only. You cannot just be in here observing. You need to leave now." I sighed internally. It looked like my quiet observation was over. Well, I can assure you, I have authorization to be here. "Authorization? From who?" she scoffed. "I'm the manager of this facility and I didn't authorize any visitors today." "So I'm gonna ask you one more time. Who are you and what are you doing here?" Well, at this point, a couple of nearby employees had started to notice the interaction and were pointedly trying not to stare. This was getting ridiculous. So I decided to try and de-escalate while maintaining my cover. "Look, I'm a consultant from corporate, brought in to review the new system's performance. It's actually a surprise audit, so my name would not be on your schedule." This was the wrong thing to say. The word corporate seemed to trigger her. Her face flushed with anger. "A consultant? You don't look like any consultant I've ever seen," she said, her voice laced with a condescending venom that was impossible to miss. The implication was clear. Corporate doesn't send people who look like you unannounced. They send professionals, not janitors. Wow, okay, so that's how it was gonna be, right? The quiet racism was now actually very loud. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that losing my temper would solve nothing here. "My appearance has nothing to do with my job," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "I am telling you that I have a right to be here and I'm not leaving." This was it, the final line in the sand for her. She saw my calm refusal as a direct challenge to her authority filtered through her prejudiced worldview. She saw a black man in a hoodie defying her and she snapped. "That's it! You are trespassing! I'm ordering you to leave these premises immediately!" She practically shrieked, "And I'm telling you, I work here!" I said, my voice flat. "No you don't!" she shot back, jabbing a finger in my direction. "I know everything a person who works in this building and you're not one of them. You're probably here to case the joint or steal something." The accusation hung in the air, ugly and loud. Now several employees were openly watching the drama unfold. I could see the discomfort on their faces. They knew this was wrong, but she was their boss. "You're making a very big mistake here," I warned her. "The only mistake was me being polite," she snarled, and she pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the police. You're a trespasser who's refusing to leave and is becoming aggressive. You'll be sorry." I just stood there and watched her dial 911. A part of me was in disbelief. Had she truly lost her mind? But another more calculating part of me took over. I realized this was her golden opportunity. She was creating an official, irreversible record of her own incompetence and prejudice, so I decided to let it play out. I crossed my arms and waited. Her voice on the phone was a masterclass in performative panic. "Yes, hello, I'm the manager at XYZ Logistics Warehouse on XYZ Street. We have a man who has broken into a secure area of our facility. He's refusing to identify himself and is becoming very aggressive. He's a large man, and my staff is frightened. We need officers here immediately." She gave them a description of me, emphasizing my race and my hoodie as if they were weapons. It was disgusting. When she hung up, she glared at me with a triumphant smirk. "The police are on their way. You're in for it now." I just shook my head and said, "You have no idea." We stood there in the tense silence for about 10 minutes. The nearby employees had all suddenly found urgent tasks to do in other parts of the warehouse. The police arrived quickly, 2 officers, a man and a woman, and they walked in looking alert and professional. Karen immediately rushed over to them. "Thank God you're here, officers. That is him. He's the one. He forced his way in here and was lurking around our high-value inventory lines. He refuses to leave." The officers approached me cautiously. "Sir, can we have a word with you?" the male officer asked. I uncrossed my arms and put my hands where he could see them just to be safe. "Of course, officer. There seems to be a misunderstanding." Karen interrupted. "It's not a misunderstanding. He is a trespasser. I want him arrested." The female officer held up a hand to quiet her. "Ma'am, let us handle this." "Sir, what is your name and what are you doing here?" I provided my full name and stated, "I work for the company that owns this facility. I have a right to be here." "He's lying," Karen screeched. "He's not in our employee database. I checked." Well, this was technically true. As the owner, I was not in the standard employee database for a specific facility. I was on a corporate payroll, a level of access she wouldn't have, and the mail officer turned back to me. "Sir, do you have any identification on you? A company ID?" "Well, I have my driver's license," I said, slowly reaching for my wallet. I handed it to him. He looked at it, then at me. "Okay, Mr. my last name, the manager here says that you're not an employee and she wants you to leave the premises. If you refuse to leave, we will have to escort you out and she can have you formally trespassed. That means if you come back, you can be arrested." This was the moment of truth. I could have ended it right there. I could have pulled out my phone, called my COO, and had him straighten this out in 2 minutes. I could have shown them the corporate ownership documents I had saved on my phone, but where was the justice in that? Karen would likely just get a slap on the wrist. She would claim it was a misunderstanding, that she was being diligent about security, and the underlying racism and the sheer reckless escalation of calling 911 on a non-threat would get swept under the rug. But no, I decided to let her dig her own grave. She wanted to trespass me? Fine. Let's make it official, though. "I understand, officer," I said calmly, "but for the record, I am here on official company business." Karen, feeling emboldened by the police presence, stepped forward, puffing out her chest. "That's not good enough. Officers, I want him formally trespassed. I'm the manager, and I'm responsible for the security of this building. I'm declaring him a threat and I want him banned from this property. I want it on record." The female officer looked at me, almost with a hint of pity. "Sir, you hear that? The property manager is revoking your permission to be here. I need you to leave now. We will file a report and a formal trespass warning will be issued. Do you understand?" "I understand perfectly," I said, looking directly at Karen. Her face was a mask of smug victory. She thought she had won. She thought she had successfully used her authority and the police to remove an undesirable person who didn't fit her idea of who belonged in her world. "Alright then," the male officer said. "Let's go, sir, we will walk you out." I complied peacefully. I walked with the officers towards the main entrance the same way I had come in. As we passed the front office, Karen followed us, her arms crossed, watching to make sure that I left. She was savoring her power trip. Once outside, the officers took down my information for the official trespass warning. They were professional and by the book. I didn't give them any trouble. I knew they were just doing their job based on the info they were given by the supposed authority on site. Before they left, I said, "Officers, thank you for your professionalism. I assure you, this entire situation will be clarified through proper channels very soon. You may want to remember this incident, though." The male officer just nodded. "Have a good day, sir. And remember, you cannot come back to this property." I watched them drive away, then I looked back at the massive building, my building, the one I had poured my heart, soul and millions of dollars into. Karen was just standing inside the glass doors watching me with a satisfied smirk before she turned and disappeared back into the office. I got in my car and for a moment I just sat there, my hands gripping the steering wheel. The anger was bubbling up now, the sheer unadulterated racism, the humiliation of being escorted out of my own company by the police, and the danger of what could have happened. A 911 call on a black man can go sideways so fast. She hadn't just been a Karen, she had been reckless and dangerous. But then again, a cold, calm sense of purpose washed over me. The anger solidified into resolve. She didn't just make a mistake here. She created a hostile environment, abused her authority, misused emergency services, and illegally banned the owner of the company from his own property. This was not gonna be a simple firing. This was gonna be a corporate exorcism. And yeah, guys, before we continue, I would say that's exactly the right word on how to deal with Karens. An exorcism might be needed. And by the way, if you have watched until here and enjoyed these stories, then please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel because I release daily stories. Also let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. The first call I made was to my personal lawyer. I explained the situation in detail. From the moment Karen approached me to the formal trespass warning, he was silent for a moment and then I heard him let out a low whistle. Probably like this. Although I'm not good at whistling. "She did what?" he asked, his voice a mix of disbelief and what I can only describe as a legal glee. "She had you, the owner of the property, formally trespassed, and there's a police report to document it? Oh, this is beautiful. Don't do anything, don't talk to anyone, just go home. We will handle this tomorrow. This is not just a firing, this is a liability lawsuit waiting to happen if she tries to make a fuss." My second call was to my COO, the man who hired her. I laid out the facts calmly and without emotion. The silence on his end of the line was deafening. When he finally spoke, his voice was tight with fury. "I'm so sorry, I have no words. I vetted her, I approved her, this is on me." "Don't worry, it's on both of us," I corrected him, "but we're gonna fix it. Here's the plan. I want you and the head of HR at that facility at 9 AM sharp tomorrow. Wear your best suit. I will meet you there." "You cannot go back there," he said. "You've been trespassed." "Exactly," I said, "and we're gonna address that. Just be there." The next morning, I arrived at the facility at 8:45 AM. I parked in the same lot. I was wearing the same outfit as the day before, work pants, steel-toed boots, and the infamous grey hoodie. I met my COO and my head of HR, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Carol, in the parking lot. My COO was in a crisp, dark navy suit that screamed authority. Carol was in an equally powerful business suit. They both looked at my attire, and my COO just shook his head and managed a small smile. He understood what I was doing. At precisely 9 AM, the three of us walked towards the main entrance. We did not badge in, we walked right through the main glass doors into the front reception area. The receptionist looked up, her eyes widening slightly when she saw me. She clearly recognized me from yesterday's spectacle. Before she could even ask who we were, the door to the manager's office flew open. Karen stormed out, her face instantly turning a shade of thunderous. She fumbled for her phone again. This was it. The moment we had all been waiting for. My COO took one step forward. His presence was formidable. At 6'4" with a voice that could command a stadium when he spoke, people listened. "Karen, put the phone down," he said, his voice dangerously low and quiet. Karen froze, her hand hovering over her phone. She looked from my CEO's expensive suit to Carol's stern face, and then back to me in my hoodie. The confusion was wearing with the rage on her face. Who are you?" she stammered, addressing my COO. "I'm the chief operating officer of the company," he said, his eyes like eyes. "And this," he said, gesturing to Carol, "is our head of human resources. And this man," he continued, turning his hand towards me, "is the person you called the police on and had banned from his own property yesterday." He paused for dramatic effect, letting the words hang in the air. "Karen, I would like to formally introduce you to Mr. my full name, the founder, owner, and CEO of this company, the man whose name is on the deed to this building and on the front of your paycheck." I've seen people's faces drain of color before, but I've never seen anything like what happened to Karen's face in that moment. It was a complete system failure. The blood vanished, leaving a pasty grayish pallor. Her jaw went slack, her eyes darted between the three of us, desperately searching for a sign that this was some kind of elaborate joke, but she found none. The smug certainty she wore so proudly yesterday had evaporated, replaced by pure abject terror. I didn't know," she whispered, the words barely audible. Carol, the HR director, stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "That is irrelevant, Karen. You were informed by Mr. OP that he was authorized to be here. You made a series of assumptions based on his appearance." And instead of de-escalating or attempting to verify his status through proper channels, like for example calling your direct superior, the COO, who was standing right next to you, you escalated the situation to the most extreme level. You called emergency services and filed a false police report against the owner of the company. Karen started to babble. "I was just following security protocol. I was protecting the facility. I have to be vigilant. I thought he was a threat." I spoke for the first time since we entered. My voice was quiet, but it cut through her panicked excuses like a knife. "A threat? Karen, what about me was a threat? My hoodie, my skin color? You didn't see a potential executive. You saw a criminal. You didn't want to verify my identity. You wanted to expel me, and you enjoyed it. You stood at that door and smirked as the police escorted me off my own land." She flinched as if I'd struck her, and she had nothing to say. There was no defense. Carol continued in her clipped professional tone. "Karen, you're being placed on immediate indefinite suspension pending a full investigation. Your network access has been revoked already. You are to hand over your keys, your access card, and any other company property to me right now. Then you will be escorted from the premises. You are not to contact any employees of this company. Do you understand?" She just nodded numbly, her eyes wide with shock. She fumbled in her pocket, her hands shaking so much that she could barely get her keys out. She handed them over to Carol. "Now, there's the matter of the trespass warning," my COO said, pulling out his own phone. "Our legal counsel has already been in contact with the local police department this morning. We've provided them with proof of ownership and a sworn statement. The trespass warning against Mr. OP is being expunged, and the report is being amended to note that the call was made in error by a misinformed manager." They were not pleased about having their resources wasted, by the way. The finality of it all seemed to crash down on her. The tears started to well up in her eyes.
Please, she begged, looking at me. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. I'm so sorry. Please don't fire me. I need this job.
I looked her dead in the eye. You did not make a mistake, Karen. You made a choice. You chose to be a racist. You chose to abuse your power, and you chose to call the cops on a man who was doing nothing but standing quietly in a building that he built. The most frightening part is what could have happened. That 911 call could have ended my life, do you understand that? All because you didn't think a black man belonged in a position of power. So no, I don't accept your apology. You are not the kind of person I want managing my company or my people. My COO gestured to the on-site security guard who had been watching the entire exchange with a stunned expression. Please escort this woman to her car. And just like that, she was the one being walked out of the building she claimed to be in charge of. The irony was poetic. The fallout, however, didn't end there. The full investigation was swift and brutal. We interviewed the employees who witnessed the event too. Their statements corroborated my story perfectly, and several added that Karen had a history of making condescending and biased remarks to minority employees. Her termination was for gross misconduct, specifically creating a hostile work environment, willful discrimination based on race, gross misuse of company authority, reckless endangerment through the unnecessary use of emergency services, filing a false police report from the company's perspective as she knowingly misrepresented me as an unauthorized trespasser. Our legal team sent her a termination letter so ironclad that she and her lawyer didn't even attempt to fight it for wrongful termination. They knew she had created a mountain of evidence against herself. Her career in management, at least in this industry, where everyone knows everyone, was effectively over. But I was not done yet. This incident exposed a massive potential vulnerability in my company culture. I couldn't be everywhere at once to check on every manager, so I used this disaster as a catalyst for positive change. First, I held a meeting with all the employees at that facility. I told them exactly what happened without naming Karen. I explained that discrimination of any kind was a fireable offense, period. I emphasized that the real security of our company comes from our people feeling respected and empowered, not from managers who rule by fear and prejudice. We instituted a new confidential whistleblower hotline directly to corporate HR in my COO's office, allowing employees to report manager like Karen without fear of retaliation. In the end, Karen's racist power trip cost her her job and her career. It cost my company a fair bit in legal fees and for the new training programs. But we gained what was invaluable. We strengthened our company culture, reinforced our values, and made it unequivocally clear what we stand for. The new manager we hired, by the way, for that facility is a fantastic woman who has smashed every performance record, and the facility itself is now the most efficient and profitable jewel in my company's crown. Sometimes letting someone complete their catastrophic mistake is the only way to ensure they face the full consequences and that you have the foundation to build something better in its place. She wanted me banned from the premises, but instead she got herself banned from the entire industry. And the next one is a fantastic I don't work here lady story that is titled, "Hello Amazon, I'm calling the cops on one of your drivers." So this happened a while ago when I owned my fulfillment company. I had just hired a marketer to do Google Ads. Our bread and butter was Amazon sellers that shipped us their product from manufacturers, and we would bundle and label to be shipped into Amazon warehouses. We were targeting Amazon keywords, which is how this lady got our Google ad. "Hello, this is fulfillment company, what can I do for you?" Lady, "Is this Amazon?" Me, "No, but we ship to Amazon." Lady, "Your driver just ran into my mailbox. I want compensation." "We are not Amazon." Lady, "You just said you were Amazon." Me, "I said we ship to Amazon. Do you think Amazon has a local area code and answers on the second ring?" Lady, "I'm calling the cops and you're gonna pay for this." Me, "I think calling the cops is a great idea. Have a nice day." After that, I told my marketing guy to change things up. And the next one is another fantastic I don't work here lady story, which is titled, "Man grabbed my arm because I was not stocking the shelves fast enough." So I was in the cereal aisle wearing jeans and a band hoodie, just trying to decide between Cheerios and Raisin Bran. A man came up behind me, grabbed my elbow and said, "Excuse me, but you're gonna stand there all day or are you gonna get more Fruit Loops from the bag?" I yanked my arm away and told him I didn't work here. He just rolled his eyes and said, "Whatever, you're useless," and walked away. And yeah guys, thank you for watching. I will see you again tomorrow, and don't forget to hype the video if you have the option available.